disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this Kitz Corner. Fantastic. So I know we talked extensively about Trump's victory last week, the election, being that it was probably one of the most predominant news stories of that week, during the fact that all the measures done by the deep state, all the countless that kind of stirred in direction of being a tight race, and maybe Kamala Harris will come out victorious. Turns out Trump completely wiped that out. There is celebrations in the United States. People all across the world are now reacting to this in great measures. There's even possibility of peace breaking out, which is something that I think everyone should agree on. I think everyone should be celebratory on that, but you get people in the liberal establishment that don't understand that. They're just self-involved. They're completely dealing with their own narcissism, thinking that somehow people that vote for Trump is an attack on them personally, and they feel victimized and create this trauma, and then you get the good, bad, and the ugly of post-election videos on TikTok and stuff. But the real question is, as a Canadian myself, what is our reaction to this? Because obviously, coming now less than a year of our ballots being casted for a new prime minister going to be in our office, this could be concerning. This could be concerning for Parliament. And I think Parliament right now is actually freaking out more about this than they are trying to put a blank face on the fact that Trump got victorious over this. So, for example, this is coming out saying the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, is already on high alert for a potential surge in migrants following the election of Donald Trump. Canada's federal police have been preparing for months on a contingency plan for a massive migrant influx across the border after Trump's promise of mass deportations of millions of undocumented immigrants in the United States. The plan includes deploying more RCMP officials, including in wooded areas, acquiring or renting space to temporarily house migrants, purchasing more police vehicles, and borrowing officers from neighboring provinces. So there is a bit of concern about our border security. And not just the fact that there's so many celebrities trying to convince themselves that I'm going to move to Canada. Trump gets elected, I'm moving to Canada, which, first of all, that's not going to happen. Second of all, I would find that hilarious if they actually did. I would find it so hilarious that a Malibu celebrity, a beach bum celebrity, dares to try to survive a Canadian winter. That would be like a great reality show, right? Try to get someone from, California who's, lived on the beaches, enjoys palm trees. Yeah, try to convince them to come up here and experience the art of shoveling. How it gets cold and dark at 5 o'clock. I dare them. Go right ahead. Because that would be the highlight of my day. That would be the highlight of most Canadians to witness that. But if they survive, I'll maybe, I'll do a peace offering. I'll invite them out for poutine or something. But this is obviously concerning. Because, yes, Donald Trump's main priorities is involving immigration. And there is a call to action in the Trump administration to mass deport illegals into the country, which makes sense. If they're undocumented, they don't have access, they don't have not going through the same hurdles and constituents that legal immigrants went through, then there's a possibility that, yes, they're going to have to be deported. And considering the fact that, this is not an attack on immigrants, it's the fact that the immigration system has exploited these people purposely in regards to this. The whole idea of this is the fact that you have people in the establishment, people in the corporate world that have exploited the immigrant population, the migrant crisis, for their own advantage. Places like Tim Hortons, for example, their parent company pays the Canadian government to keep the borders open. They lobby for more and more migrants to pour into the country so that they can work at Tim Hortons, leaving young people disadvantaged on pursuing a part-time job at a well-known establishment and exploiting immigrants for cheap labor instead of getting actual employed Canadians, giving them a livable basis wage and benefits, and treating them like a human being, treating them like an actual employee of Tim Hortons. That's what they're doing. And this is obviously going to put our security at risk. So that is a bit of a dilemma. That's obviously going to, stir some controversy in the North here about what's going to happen now that Donald Trump is elected, now that Americans are seeing this policy being planned out, because Donald Trump has now released a lot of videos explaining his positions on so many things. This is obviously going to be concerning for Canadians, but I think people like her, Chrystia Freeland, who's just desperate to look at more bank accounts to freeze, she's more worried about other things. She's more worried that, a surge in Trump voters in America, how is that going to pander out to our election coming up when our favorability is as low as Kamala Harris? This.
And his team on their historic victory. Trump and his team on their historic victory. Canada looks forward to working in close partnership with our American friends and neighbors. I also want to say, I know that a lot of Canadians...
Is it just me, or does it look like she has, like, she's a hostage and has a gun to her back? Like, you want to congratulate his victory? We want to do good things for both nations, and I want to reach out to him as much as possible. Like, you see the eyes just widening on the realization that Trump is going to be president again. Like, it's almost like detrimental, like she's deteriorating as she's speaking on air about this. Watch, look at her face reaction. Look at this.
Trump and his team on their historic victory. Canada looks forward to working in close partnership.
Look forward to working in close partnership. Take deep breaths. Take deep breaths.
With our American friends and neighbors. I also want to say, I know that a lot of Canadians are anxious. A lot of Canadians have been anxious this week. A lot of Canadians were anxious throughout the night. And I want to say, with utter sincerity and conviction to Canadians, that Canada will be absolutely fine. We have a strong relationship with the United States. We have a strong relationship.
And I would just like to say that not only Canada's going to be fine after this, but Canada's going to be even more better when her position of power is going to be jeopardized by next year. That's the optimism that we should have as Canadians, that seeing the wave of people going against not only just horrendous, misinformed, misguided politicians just within their country, but go against the entire global initiative used to epitomize people. Going against that grain shows how monumentous Trump's election really is. How you get people like the WEF, Yuval Harari, going on a podcast saying that this is going to be a blow for the global order, that the New World Order is now going to be deteriorated because of Trump's victory, because of these initiatives to bring in concerns about the nation, not pandering to the global agenda of the WEF or the WHO and all these billionaire constituents that just go around internationally exploiting countries.
With President Trump and his team. Let's remember, that our trading relationship today is governed by the trade deal concluded by President Trump himself and his team. That's really, really important. What's also important is the economic and security fundamentals of our relationship. The reality is the relationship between Canada and the United States works for both countries. Canada is the largest market.
The reality is that still to this day, people are paying extraordinary amount for groceries. The reality is that Canada's supposed to be this prosperous country of peace and tolerance and multiculturalism, yet the most diversity you see is people gathering around in tent cities because they can't afford shelters. They can't afford roofs over their head. You see most diversity lining up at food banks by the 2 millions. That's the reality of Canada. She's more focused on, well, trade's going to be okay, and the economics of Bay Street are going to be okay. Like, we're concerned about that class of people, but not the actual Canadians, not the actual working class Canadians that are still feeling the burden of the disregard of administrations like her and Justin Trudeau. That her reign of terror has undoubtedly caused a huge uproaring of angry Canadians to the point that they would want an election today if they had the opportunity. They would definitely cast a ballot today if they had the opportunity. That is why they're so scared of a Trump win and why they're faking this faux pas. Oh, congratulations. Oh, we're going to try and work hard together. But deep inside, they're petrified because they know that a Trump victory in America, considering that the Democratic establishment kind of operated the same way the liberal establishment here did, is going to cost them. They know that Canadians are going to wake up to this. They're going to be awoke by a Trump victory and think, oh, now it might be our turn to turn the page. Now we might get a chance to oust this globalist capture, this crony capital international capture of our governance that's tore this nation apart. And that's why she is on edge by constantly saying that Canada's going to be fine. Canada's going to be fine. Is that for the working class people you're directing that to? Or are you just saying that for yourself? You're just saying that for yourself. Oh, Canada's going to be fine. Canada's going to be fine. I'm still going to be deputy prime minister. I'm still going to be the finance minister. I still have fundamental power. I can still freeze bank accounts. I feel safer now. I feel safer now. Because, oh my God, can you imagine Canadians actually looking towards their own policies, looking towards their own corrupt politicians, the same way Americans did with their election? They know that they're in trouble. They know that they're in trouble. And I know this because even mainstream media is pointing this out. Here's CTV's question period discussing about this. This is after when they had the House of Commons meeting over the weekend. And even they know that Justin Trudeau, the liberal establishment here in Canada, their time is coming up. Their time is coming up. Their reign of terror, their disastrous policies, their horrendousness when it comes to economics and everything else is going to come to a close race where Canadians are fed up, they're angered, they're tired, they're just absolutely done with the horrendousness of this establishment. And that's what worries people like Chrystia Freeland, Justin Trudeau, Melanie Joly, the foreign affairs minister, on Trump's victory. Listen.
If you're sitting in the Prime Minister's office, what is the takeaway politically at a strategic level out of this?
Well, what the takeaway should be is don't overlook the obvious. And, you know, we all indulged last week, maybe not all of us, certainly I indulged. I was a dummy who indulged in overlooking the obvious and trying to find in a spate of overanalysis some reason to ignore
I'm sorry, just the fact they said I indulge, I'm a bit of a dummy. That's a Tim Waltz moment, right? Ah, I'm just such a knucklehead. I sometimes lie. I'm just a knucklehead. I just had poor grammar. That's right. Not because I'm, absolutely clueless on the situation and completely disconnected with reality. Nah, I'm just a knucklehead. I'm just bad with grammar.
If you're sitting in the prime minister's office, what is the takeaway politically at a strategic level out of this?
Well, what the takeaway should be is don't overlook the obvious. And, we all indulged last week, maybe not all of us, certainly I indulged. I was a dummy who indulged in overlooking the obvious and trying to find in a spate of overanalysis some reason to ignore the fact that voters in the United States want to change. 70% of voters in the U.S. said they thought their country was headed in the wrong direction. That is why Kamala Harris lost. And so if I'm sitting in the Prime Minister's office and I know that only 25% of Canadians think the country's headed in the right direction, I have to realize that that is the wall, the unforgiving wall that I'm running at as fast as I can. I think it's a devastating loss for folks in the Prime Minister's office as they look across the border, because what it reminds you is that voters who want change will not be denied. And I think that's a very, very, very tough verdict for Justin Trudeau.
There you go. Canadians, and especially Canadian parliamentarians that have sit in their high horse, their ivory towers, oppressing the whims of working class Canadians, they are petrified. They're not only petrified of an influx of immigration, which I think every Canadian would be concerned about that. That's border analysis on that. But they're also concerned that the stature of Justin Trudeau and his authoritarian regime is going to topple. They know it's going to topple. They know that statistically, Canadians are absolutely fed up with their government. They are fed up to the teeth of just the malice practices, the constant censorship, the disregard of ordinary Canadian situations, the fact that they refuse to lower grocery prices or fix inflation, even though they constantly go on podcasts and say, well, it's hard to be a Canadian right now. It's hard with the economic times. Yeah, your economy, Justin Trudeau, your economy, Chrystia Freeland, your economy, Melaine Joly. You are the ones in power. You are the ones that caused a lot of these problems. And yet you go on podcasts pandering to the audiences. Oh, I care about these issues because I know what it's like. I know how hard it is to buy a house. I know how hard it is for young people to go out into the workforce. As they are the ones in a position of power where they should be held responsible for the actions that they have caused to create these problems. So yes, the temple that they have created is going to topple. And they are petrified by this. They are petrified that Donald Trump got elected. That's going to cause mass migration. They're petrified that that's going to be a result, a glaring statistic of the upcoming election in 2025. They know that's going to happen. Concerning the fact that the Liberals have lost key battleground by-elections in key battleground ridings across the nation is already concerning to them. They're losing their touch, they're losing their power, they're losing their ability, and Donald Trump is scaring the bejesus out of them. Scaring the bejesus out of them. Concerning the fact that Donald Trump wants to make peace with countries, and yet a peacekeeping nation like Canada is still in peril to preserving the war machine agenda, pandering to the military-industrial complex, saying we still have to sacrifice our nation. We have to drain it dry for Ukraine. We need to pander to both sides of the Israel genocide conflict as we're mass murdering mothers and children in Lebanon, in Gaza, in Palestine. And we want to get involved in wars, petty wars with Latin American countries. We want to aid a civil uprising in Haiti. We're supposed to be peacekeeping nations, and yet Donald Trump seems to be keeping that promise. Donald Trump is not even Canadian. Seems to be more of a peacekeeper than Canadian government. Just the many, many different disasters, the many disregards that they have done to themselves. That's going to cost them possibly the election coming up. And they are petrified beyond belief of a Donald Trump victory. That's why this guy even came up and said, oh, I self-indulge. I was a bit of a knucklehead. I was a bit crazy. I was a bit stupid to think that nothing was going to happen. Everything was going to be okay. No, that huge red wave in America is a reflection of what's going to happen here. What's going to come and happen here, because people are already pissed off at their government. Seen that with statistics. Now we're less than a year away from actually implementing that out when people cast their ballots. And it's TikTok time for Justin Trudeau to figure out, what the hell am I going to do? Because I keep lowering myself. I keep absolutely disconnecting and disregarding ordinary Canadians and making it worse for their party. I wonder why so many liberal MPs in Parliament are demanding his resignation. Because not only is Trudeau an embarrassment for Canada, he's an embarrassment for his own party. That speaks volumes. That speaks a huge amount of volumes. And that is why they're petrified of a Trump victory.